Well, here we are out in Idaho. Alpine guy here. And we're out in the wood butcher's shop. and the wife was just insistent that she didn't like my idea of gluing screw heads back in here and covering these holes up. So we went to Home Depot and we bought new grill covers. So they only have one hole on each end. Dimension wise, they're exactly the same. And I'll show you what we bought. A nice 12 by 6 air return grill covers. Home Depot had those. And I didn't like the original idea that I had with a little silver thumb screw. So we found some nice little knurled knobs. And what we're going to do is use two of these, and these will go down just like so. And so when we reinstall the grill over this frame and the filter, this is what you're going to end up with. And so you'll have one here and one on this end, which will make a much easier screw to reach up overhead and grab. And then all you would need to do is just unscrew that and unscrew the other one, of course, and then that lowers the grill cover and you can change the filter out. The original size of the thumb screw and the T-lock nut that I was going to use. This is a T-lock nut. It's what they call it in the store, so that's what we'll call it. But yeah, what am I trying to say here? Who knows? I originally bought a 632 and by 1/2 inch. And I got to looking at that, and it was a little bit small thread-wise in comparison to the hole diameter on the new grill cover and even the original grill covers. And, you know, the more I look at these grill covers, this was some botched job that Keystone did when they put this Alpine together. And some folks have only 2 screws. Mine had 8. And Keystone, you suck for putting this junk in an Alpine like this. I just got to say it like it is. And if somebody doesn't like, I'll try to keep my language clean and civil. But I am a retired U.S. Air Force aircraft mechanic. And when you're on the flight line, things get said. But back to the business at hand here. So this is 832 instead of a 632. And as you can see, it fits in that screw nice, and it's nice and flush. And, you know, it actually looks like something professional, and that's what the wife is after. And the T-nuts, they will be mounted like so, and we'll give you a side shot. And the T-nut is actually, there's going to be a hole drilled through the little frame I've made. And so when the T-nut is installed, it's going to be sitting down flush like so in the center of the wood. It won't protrude through the backside of the small frame that I've made. And what that will do is give us a nice steady reattachment point. And of course there'll be one on each end. And of course I had to drop that. And why not show the mistakes from a clumsy old man? So we'll get down here on the hands and knees. Luckily it didn't go too far and we were able to retrieve it. But there will be a T-nut right here in the center of the frame like so. And it will be flush. And of course there will be another T-nut in the center of the frame, flush. And then the screen will sit down, or the grill will sit down over the frame, just like so. And then we'll stop the camera here for a minute. And then all we've got to do is hold this grill up to the wood frame on the ceiling and with the filter material underneath of it, and attach these 2 thumb screws. And when we do, these T-nuts will be down inside the wood frame, and so it will hold the screen on, or the grill on nice and tight, hold the filter in place, And come time to change, 2 thumb screws won't take more than 30 seconds to take off, and so that'll make a nice improvement. And I guess I got to admit, after looking at the new grill versus the old grill, not having those other holes in there will make it look cosmetically nicer. For my wife's home interior decorating ideas and stuff that she's always, she's kind of OCD. I shouldn't say that, but she's a very neat and clean, organized person, so we'll do it this way. However, when I bought the new screens, the outside dimensions are perfect. The inside grill area appears at first glance to be perfect, but ran into a problem, so we might as well show you this problem. And here lies the problem. On the new grill, when you look down at the back side, the fins stick up above the flat edge that needs to mate down against the wood frame. And so if we try to put that on there, these fins are going to hit on the inside and not let the new grill sit down flush. So versus the old one, of course, the fins are actually recessed, and you can see the difference now. Hopefully that's in focus. And if that frame is even warped, and the new ones aren't warped. So Keystone putting junk out in these $100,000 fifth wheels. So, you know, this is how we want it to sit. We want all the edges to be nice and flush all the way around. So this is not going to work. And I can see my wife peeking in the garage wondering, what am I doing? So what we're going to have to do, obviously, since the grills are sticking down, is we're going to have to trim the inside of this opening on this end here and this end here. And we're going to take a little bit of the wood material off, and by doing so, that will now allow the grill to sit down flush like we want it to. So we'll do that with the scroll saw, and we'll make some measurements on the frame, decide how much we want to take off on each end. I want to take the same amount off of each end so that the grill cover obviously will sit nice and square on the frame. You really won't see much of the frame, and that's okay. The frame is serving two purposes. One is giving me something to attach a new grill to and use these T-nuts. And secondly, this is about a 1-inch wide piece of wood. What this is going to do is it's going to cover up all the botch work and lousy craftsmanship that Keystone saw fit to do when they cut out those vents. So on to the task at hand of modifying the original frame a little bit to accommodate the nice new grill covers. Well, good evening. This is the Alpine guy, and we're messing with this air filter return grill and frame trim to cover up the botched hatch job or hack job that Keystone did when they built it. And I originally was going to use this nice MERV 10 filter like we use in the house, but the backing on this filter, it's got this, I guess it's a lightweight aluminum, and it gives me troubles when I go to put the grill down flush against the frame. And so there's only one place this goes, and that's take one in the trash. And what we decided to use instead, we went over to Walmart, since Home Depot's 40 miles up the road for us out here in our little cow town that we live in. And we went over at Walmart and we looked at the filters that they had, and they've got a Filtrete filter, and I think the MERV rating on it was MERV 6 or MERV 8. Yeah, MERV 8, I think it was. Anyways, The size on the filter that we picked is 20 by 30 by 1 inch. And with this one large filter, we have enough material that we have cut one already and installed it. And this will be the second filter for the second return. And we have enough raw material left to cut 2 more filters for the bedroom returns. What I like about this filter is it's got a plastic backing on it that attaches across all of the ribs on the filter material. So this is the side that will show through the grill when the frame and new grill is mounted up in the Alpine, and it'll look nice and clean. And on the back side, it's got this plastic material that goes across and holds this filter together. And the neat thing about that is when I mount this filter grill, which I have mounted it to the frame that's going to go on the Alpine, go up against the roof. When you look on the back side of this, you can see that this is nice and tight and stretched. And so the frame has locked all of this filter material in place against the grill. And so there's absolutely no way that the filter material can be sucked up away from the grill and the frame and up into the roof air conditioning unit. This is what it's going to look like if you viewed it from the top. And so if we were looking up, if I don't drop the phone, this is what you're going to see. And when it's on the roof, you're not going to see anything, you know. Quite frankly, who sits in their fifth wheel and looks up at the ceiling all the time? I don't. And so this is what the knurled knobs look like. This is what the new grill work looks like. For those of you that that only have 2 holes on your Alpine grills, you won't have to buy new filters like I did. I mean, this is the job that they did. And this was OEM, this was not by me. And you can see the extra holes that they drilled. And I can look at that and tell that somebody drilled that with a hand drill. They didn't even use a drill press, you know. So, I mean, you could see the difference. That's a factory hole, and that certainly isn't. And neither is this. But anyways, this is going to work nice. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this apart so that you can see how the filter lays in there. Okay, so basically if this was mounted on the ceiling of the Alpine, all I have to do is unscrew that knurled knob, unscrew this knurled knob, and boy, I got a suntan today mowing the yard. But now we would just lift the grill off, and of course we're looking at the filter, and you can see where I've made a little cutout on each end with a pair of scissors, just so that the knurled knob, when I go to put it through the grill, it actually will go in and thread right through that. It's not grabbing the filter material, and we're not tearing the filter up, which was what was happening with the other stuff, the original OEM stuff, and anything else that you'd try to use. And so this makes a fairly easy filter to cut out. You can get 4 filters from that filter that I showed you that the wife and I cut apart. Again, it's a 20 by 30 by 1 inch. And to the right, I have another piece of filter material, and this will be for the second living room grill. And I'll just need to trim it up a little bit and trim 2 little slots on each end like so that the thumb screws can go in. And so that gives me 2 filters. This is the remaining material left, and there is ample material to cut 2 more filters. So for $10 at Walmart, you can get a decent pleated filter with a good backing material on it that's going to hold the filter in place against the grill work. And if you make a frame like what I've made, and the air conditioning return suction is not going to be able to draw this pleated filter away from the frame. And so that's a completed project. My miter cut was not the best on this side, but you're not going to see much of the wood. The next ones that I make, the miters will look like that. And what we're going to do is make all the rest of the frames exactly the same as this. So for those that are interested in creating this project or using my ideas to do something similar yourself, the overall length on this from the outside miter edge is 14 inches. That's from edge to edge on the outside. And the overall outside width is 8 1/2 inches. And by using those dimensions that I've shown, when I lay this grill up here in place, and you can see where the holes line up, we have, maybe, I'm not going to measure it, there's probably a 1/4 to 3/8 on each side. And when we look at the front edge, probably 1/4 and probably a 1/4 at the back. Actually, let me get that where it's supposed to be. And so now you can see that probably a 1/4 inch on the front edge, 1/4 inch on the back edge. So roughly a 1/4 inch or so all the way around, and that's all the frame that's showing. You could make the frame larger by using wider material. And our local wood shop made this material for us, and it's what have we got here? 1 3/8. It's supposed to be 1 1/2 inches, but it's 1 3/8 inches. That's what they cut for us. And the thickness on it is 1/4 inch, but I'll put a ruler on it just so that everybody can hopefully see this measurement. Yeah, it's almost impossible for me to. Yeah, you can see that it in fact is 1/4 inch. So it's 1/4 inch thick and 1 1/2 inches wide. Okay, so now we're going to set this up as though we were installing it with the frame mounted on the roof and painted, which of course obviously it's not. So the filter material is laid just like that. We could probably, since we'd be doing this upside down, lay the filter material right on the screen. Just make sure that these slots that you see are over the open holes so that when we go to mate it up against the frame, we won't have any problems doing that. And so there we have the frame, or the grill over the frame, and we'll just put one set screw in. Try to do that left-handed, and we'll do the same with the other thumb screw and line that up. Our filter material is nice and flush. It's not hanging out on the edges. The pleats actually almost line up. You could play with that if you really wanted to, but I mean, who cares? It's up against the ceiling, and its purpose is to filter the return air. That's what we're after, and we want a filter that's going to stay in place. And so we've tightened this up, and that's all there is to it. And I can't see anything that would be wrong with that. We'll flip this over again. You can clearly see that the mesh material that they've got on here, I'm gonna just try this. We'll just pick that up and it doesn't come out, and that's what we're after. And I think that this filter material is going to do just fine for my purposes. I did look at RV Air had some foam filter. It's 16.5 by 9 inches. These are about $8.50 a piece, and so I would have had $35 invested for 4 of these filters, which I thought was pretty pricey. It's a MERV 6, and it's really nothing more than a a piece of foam treated with some kind of, I don't know, some kind of antimicrobial something, polyester fibers. But I think the other filter that we've got, I think this material is going to do just as good. You know, it's, after all, it is for a home air conditioning system, and it'll make it nice and simple. So we'll get this frame dressed up, get it painted, and then what we're going to use to mount the frame is, if I can find them, I'm going to use some number 4 3/4 inch screws with oval heads on them, and that's going to mount on the inside of the frame. You won't see those screws once the grill is in place, and we'll countersink those just a little bit so they sit down just a little bit in the wood. Probably going to go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 6 screws. I may go with 2 on each end as well as the 2 on the sides, and that'll hold the frame up against the Alpine interior roof and should make a nice flush installation. At least we hope so. And what I'm going to use for paint, I was going to hand brush some sort of paint on, but I saw up at Home Depot they have this Behr white paint, and it matches the color of this grill pretty closely. And it's a paint and primer, gloss white. And so that's what I'm going to spray this wood with. It'll probably take 3 or 4 coats to get a nice covering on it. But I think it's going to look a lot nicer. And with these 2 thumb screws versus pulling out 8 of these number 2 wood screws that they had, well, they weren't even wood screws. They were number 2 sheet metal screws is what they were. I think I'm going to be a lot happier, and it'll give you folks an idea. Well, I need to straighten up this workbench. We actually have a pretty good workbench in here, but a lot of clutter on it right now with various things the wife's doing, gourds and you name it. But we can usually get most things done. And to get my angles and stuff cut nicely, that's what I use as a chop saw with a stand, and it makes pretty good work. I can wood butcher with the best of them. We'll get the final thing all dressed up and painted, and install one, and make another short video so that you folks can get an idea what it's actually going to look like mounted on the ceiling. And then you can decide if it's a project that might interest you and pursue it, or through my clumsiness and wood butchering and everything else, it may give you a better idea than what I have to make something for yourself instead of having to deal with the OEM type filters that are currently on there right now.